and they don't need to hunt anymore, they'll start fighting over the food. They'll start beginning to bicker and fight over the food. They'll say, this piece is my piece. Or they'll start, mating seasons come and they'll start fighting each other. So that, that gang, bond that exists. I'm from this area, my territory. You come to this territory, we're all going to unite against you. We find that it's very animalistic. And it's one, like hyenas, as soon as there's no threat, for example, as soon as there's no interest, we find there's all the brothers switching at each other. That's my girl, what's going on, bro? What are you saying, And to give this talk on the brotherhood, I came across a beautiful hadith to address these issues. A beautiful hadith which I think if we implement and apply, it will go a long way in terms of brotherhood. But the Prophet ﷺ, he says, La tahasadu. He's giving us advice to the Muslims, every Muslim. La tahasadu. Do not envy one another. Yeah, do not envy one another. Now what does this mean? Because envy as a quality is instilled in all of us. All of us have envy. Because we don't like being outstripped by other people. We don't like seeing people having something and then we don't have that thing. So we'll be like, you know what, I want that. Yeah, so you get that feeling inside. And even if you take it out of the context of brotherhood, you start looking at, watch a gangster movie, you watch an MTV show and you start seeing they've got money, they got women, the envy starts kicking. I wish I had that. Yeah, even from that level, we know the disastrous path that leads. But within the context of brotherhood, what the Prophet ﷺ is talking about, he's saying, don't envy one another. Yeah, and there's different types of envy. So this is the simple envy of, whatever, man, I wish I had what he had. Fair enough. But then there's a type of envy called malicious envy, brothers. Now this is the type of envy will lead to action. He's got the iPod, that new latest iPod, I want it. So I'm gonna go steal it. Yeah, it will lead to action. And this is haram, completely haram. And the Prophet is saying, don't envy each other. And the shaitan himself, the Iblis himself, he said to Nuh alayhi salam as advice, he said, I warn your people of two things. I warn them about two things. The first one is malicious envy. And the second one was fervent desire. The first one got me. The first, because I started to envy Adam alayhi salam. Allah Azza wa Jal created him with his own hands. Allah Azza wa Jal taught him knowledge that he didn't even teach the angels. Allah Azza wa Jal said, look how, saying good things about... And the shaitan got very jealous and envious. And then obviously we know what the shaitan did. So shaitan said, envy got me. And the second one got Adam alayhi salam. The desire to go and eat, be lured by the tree. So watch out for these two. So the Prophet first he said, La tahasadu wa la tanajashu. Yeah? And there's one interpretation which means don't sell. Yeah? Don't outbid each other. But there's another interpretation which I'm here to take, which is the root word of najasha. It means to deceive or trick someone. Yeah? And a hunter is called a najish, because a hunter's job is to make sure that person doesn't know what he's hunting, doesn't know he's there, to trick that thing. Yeah? So the Prophet is saying, do not deceive one another. Don't deceive one another. Now my little interpretation, for whatever that's worth, is, brothers nowadays, yeah, not all of them, some of them, when they're on the streets, it's like their trousers go down, they start walking in a certain way, the chest starts to puff up all of a sudden, the hat gets twisted to a certain direction, and they start speaking certain words, yeah? And they're putting on this show, yeah, macho show. For me, when I see that as deception. Because when that brother goes home, he doesn't act like that. Yeah, yes mom, no mom, sorry. Where were you? Yeah, sorry mom, I was in the mosque praying. We know, yeah, so in my little interpretation of what that's worth, I see that as deception itself. But even in his general meaning, we shouldn't lie to each other. We shouldn't hate, we shouldn't lie to each other and try to deceive each other generally. So the Prophet continues, وَلَا تَبَاغَدُوا. Don't hate each other. Don't hate each other. Yeah, and this kind of explains itself. Because hatred is one of those qualities, one of those emotions that can lead to violence. And it most always does, yeah? So Allah Prophet is saying, don't hate each other. وَلَا تَبَاغَدُوا وَلَا تَدَابَرُوا. And don't turn your backs on one another. Don't turn your backs on one another. Now this could be meant in the sense of breaking a relationship with a brother. I'm not speaking to him anymore. He's not my boy anymore. You know that? No, I saw it. No, he bumped me, etc, etc. He's not my boy anymore, yeah? Or it could mean generally, literally turning your back, forsaking your brother. The Prophet says, don't turn your back. Be there for your brother. If he needs something, help him. Yeah? Watch your back. Don't scratch each other's backs, yeah? And I'll go into this bond, this bond of I'll scratch my back if you scratch. Yeah? We'll go into that later on. So don't turn your backs on each other, and the Prophet continues. وَلَا يَبِي بَعْدُكُمْ عَلَى بَيْءِ بَعْدٍ. Again, it's another one related to sailing, bumping each other basically, to put it in slang terms, trying to outbid another brother. And then he says, after all of that, after he said, don't do this, don't hate each other, don't envy each other, don't deceive each other, don't turn your backs on each other, he says, Kunu, gives us an imperative, a command. He says, be, Ya ibadallah, O slaves of Allah. Because that's what we all are. We're all slaves of Allah Azza wa Jal. He says, Kunu ibadallah, ikhwanan, brothers. Al-Muslim akhul Muslim. A Muslim is a brother of another Muslim. Subhanallah. And let's look at the Sahaba now. Let's go back to them because they are our best example after the Prophet. How did they understand a Muslim? Al-Muslim akhul Muslim. A Muslim is a brother of another Muslim. How did they understand? And I want to give a few examples. The first one is the example of Mus'ab ibn Umayr radiallahu ta'ala. Mus'ab ibn Umayr, what a Sahaba. This man was wealthy, attractive, young, very, very rich. And he was someone who accepted Islam at a very young age. Now there's one incident in which the Muslims had just taken part in a battle. And we've captured, we've got captives, prisoners of wars we have, yeah? And one of those prisoners was Mus'ab, one of Mus'ab's brother. His real blood brother. So Mus'ab, he's walking now, and then the Muslims are tying up the enemies, the prisoners, and he sees his brother getting tied up. And now his brother looks at Mus'ab and says, you're my brother, tell him to loosen this, yeah? Tell him to take it off. What does Mus'ab say? He said, the one that's tying you is my brother. The one that's tying you is my brother, you're not my brother. Look how he understood what a brother actually is. Yeah, not blood, forget blood. That man who's tying you believes in Allah and His Messenger. He knows what's coming in the Akhirah. Yeah, and another example is the example of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an. Abu Bakr, in one of the battles, he was fighting against his own son. He was doing jihad against his own son. Now his son later on converted to Islam and became a Muslim. And having this family gathering, family chat. And his son Abdurrahman, he says to his father, do you remember that battle we had before? I had the chance to kill you. I saw you many times. I saw you. If I wanted to, I could have come and killed you. But I didn't because you're my father. Yeah, I didn't. I couldn't put myself to do it. Yeah. What was the response of Abu Bakr? Because wallahi, if I saw you, your old son, I would have chased you down and I would have killed you for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Look at the understanding. And Abu Bakr is a senior elite Sahaba. Yeah. Look at his understanding of brotherhood. Yeah. And what does the Prophet subhanAllah continues? Yeah. The hadith is quite long, but obviously we'll take what we need. Prophet continues. He says, At-taqwa, after saying your brother, At-taqwa ha-huna. Yeah, or yushiru, yeah, he pointed to his sadri thalatha marat, 3 times, At-taqwa ha-huna. What's he saying? What's the Prophet saying? What separates you is how much you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What makes you different from one another is how much you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How conscious are you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there? That's what separates you. Not at the size of your bank balance. Not at how many, cars you have or how many friends you have. Unfortunately, that's what this society measures success as. But Islam says no. The Prophet said, taqwa is here. What separates you is how much you fear Allah Azza wa Jalla. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even says in the Quran, referring to Jannah, referring to the afterlife, وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. For that, Jannah, Allah is saying, compete with one another. Compete with one another. Now, when we compete, fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as one brotherhood, yeah, loving each other, smiling at each other, helping each other, yeah, this elevates us in rank, yeah, in the society. I can go on naming the benefits of this. Crime, what crime? Brothers won't be hungry out there, the harmony that will be created within society. Yeah, if we're competing with each other for the akhirah. Whereas we see the kuffar, what they compete for is something for this dunya. And we see when they're competing for the dunya, they start degrading themselves. Look at the lows they go to just for a nice car or a bit of money. Yeah, something that will decay and it will evaporate and it will never last. Yeah, For that they compete. They do munasafa, yeah, they do competition, but they're doing it making